Irreverent, entertaining, cool. You're listening to LA Talk Radio.
You're listening to What Women Want with Judy Goss and Kristen West, only on LA Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to What Women Want Talk Radio. Thank you for joining us for our show tonight. Live, laugh, and sometimes learn along the way. And sometimes we don't. I'm here with our co-host, Kristen West, who is in our studio at LA Talk Radio, and I'm broadcasting all the way from New York. Hi, Kristen.
Hi, Judy. How are you tonight?
I'm fabulous. How are you doing? I can't wait. Our guests are going to be so amazing tonight.
I know. I think this conversation is going to be great and inspirational and entertaining, which is the best kind of show that we ever have. And I'm so excited.
Isn't it fantastic throughout all the years? I feel like every show you and I get so excited. It's just so amazing. And you know what? Also throughout the years, we've successfully reached way over at this point, 1 million downloads since we first hit the airways. And between latalkradio.com's archives, iTunes, Google Play, and YouTube, as well as all over social media, you can find us everywhere. So listen to those replays, subscribe to us on YouTube, and sponsor us if you want to get you or your company out there. Email us for a complete deck through our website, whatwomenwantradio.com. Kristen, part of what I love about What Women Want is the stories that people tell and what we can learn from them. I feel like if we really listen, the world would be a better place. We have on Sally Kirkland. She's a 2-time Golden Globe winner and Oscar nominee. And we also have transitional strategist Randi Levin on the show. And these two women are just going to blow us away with all of their stories and information they have to share.
I'm in wholehearted agreement. When we take the time to listen, which is an acting skill, so much of acting is listening, and so much of our lives would be better if, like you said, we took the time to listen. And these two women have great anecdotes and great life advice to give us, and we just have to open our ears, and I'm sure everyone will find something that will resonate with them in some way or form. It's great to have them both tonight.
You know what? We always do, and we always have fun. And my background originally comes from high fashion modeling with Ford New York. And after that, I was a magazine editor and then an author with St. Martin's Press, which eventually led me to hosting and reporting regularly for Better TV, City Buzz, and all the TV networks across the country, both regional and national. I'm currently a regular contributor on NBC and Fox, and also hosting the show Behind the Gates on AWE. It's a luxury real estate show. And I'm a mom of twin teenage girls. Woo! An entrepreneur. I founded the company What Women Want Networking 7 years ago. We're hosting our second National Women's Conference, October 19th through the 21st. I'm so excited. It's at the Hyatt Regency in Atlanta, Georgia. And the theme is Go Big, because we're not going home, right? So if you want to meet us in person, me or my co-host Kristen, or maybe you want to rub shoulders with Amy Newmark, CEO of Chicken Soup for the Soul, who's our opening keynote, you need to join us. Go to whatwomenwantconf.com. We're actually already filling the room. So use the code GOBIG discount and grab your ticket for $100 off before the prices go up in September. Okay, last year was our first conference, and incredible women attended. Women from 13 states in Canada actually attended, and we already have women from 11 states around the country so far that are signed up, along with world-class speakers who are flying in from all over. And our closing keynote, Cecilia Lank, CEO of Value Setters, which has 200,000 angel investors in our network, is completing the circle from personal to professional development. And she's going to be a showstopper. So an incredible crowd of celebrities, VIPs, even surprise guests, and the kind of crowd this conference attracts. You'll want to be a part of it, right, Kristen?
Of course. I mean, so many enthusiastic, inspired women making big changes in their respective industries. It's like a think tank for women, and it's a great thing to be a part of. And we need more than 13 states, Judy. I remember I was sitting on the stage with you talking, and we challenged our audience to bring more women from more states. So we got to catch up now and get more than 13 states.
Well, we're already at 11, and we're 2.5 months out, so that's pretty good.
All right, so I think we need to get 25 of the 50 nifty. That's what I
I
say.
love it. Let's go. Let's do it.
Yep.
I'm ready. And you know what? Like you said, it's a think tank, but also the community of women where it's a safe haven to learn and be inspired. So listen, we're already filling up the room. It's about 30% full so far, and we've got about 3 months to go. So tickets are going fast. So grab yours now, whatwomenwantconf.com. Use the coupon code GOBIGDISCOUNT for $100 off before the prices go up, September 1. All right. Speaking of legends and incredible people, VIPs, celebrities in our business, in the business of acting, Sally Kirkland is a Hollywood legend with over 240 film and TV credits. You know her from films like The Way We Were, The Sting, JFK, Anna, Bruce Almighty, countless television appearances, and a lot more. Sally's an Oscar nominee and a 2-time Golden Globe winner. Sally started working in the 1960s, and she hasn't stopped. Sally, you got to take a lunch break sometime.
Yeah, I do.
Welcome to the show, Sally.
Thank you for having me, and thank you to Matt Chasson, who put me with you.
Oh, well, Matt's amazing. We all love Matt, and he's given us some of the best guests, honestly, we've ever had. No pressure or anything, but it is an honor to have you on the show. You know, you're such an accomplished actor. You're an activist, a philanthropist. You're an ordained minister. Your resume reads like the IMDb encyclopedia. And you know what? You're the first minister I've met that's appeared nude on stage and in the movies.
That's true.
That's the first
when
one
I
I've
met
ever
Bob
met.
Dylan, he said the same thing.
I mean, you have such a colorful career, and certainly one that needs to be celebrated and deserves to be celebrated. I'm sure it wasn't without some stumbles and falls, though. I don't know where to start, what questions to ask you, but I would love just kind of a snapshot of when you got started and your career through the decades, how it's expanded.
Well, I got started because my mother was Sally Kirkland, and she was fashion editor of Vogue in the mid to late 40s, and then Life for 20 years, back when Life was the magazine. And so she named me Sally Kirkland Jr., and that was a little bit insecurity making. And so I had to figure out at a very young age what I was going to do so that I could be even more famous than my very famous mother at the time. So at the age of 10, I decided it would be acting, and I began taking acting lessons at summer stock for kids. And then all through high school, I was president of the drama club. And I think I was off Broadway at the age of 18
Wow.
in New York. I didn't go to college. I knew exactly what I wanted to do. And I did 10 years or more of stage in New York. And you mentioned it, but in 1968, I became the first nude actress in American history, before Hair, before O Calcutta. And so that made me an overnight happening in New York. I'd get into taxi cabs, and they'd all know who I was. It was kind of amazing. And my mother was telling people how to put clothes on, and I was telling them to take them off, you know.
Oh, my gosh.
The New York Times called me up and said, Miss Kirkland, you know, you've done Shakespeare in the Park and all this. Why are you appearing nude in Terrence McNally's Scuderos? And I said, well, I'm opposed to the Vietnam War, and you can't carry a gun on a naked body. That was my statement. And I'm a painter. I'm a painter. I paint nudes, and I think women should be happy with their bodies no matter what. And so I was part of what was called the sexual revolution in the arts in the 60s, and we were very opposed to the war. And so I guess I was a little ahead of my time back there. I was playing trannies in plays and doing all sorts of things that no one thought of in the 60s. And then the 70s came, and I had just starred in a movie called Coming Apart with Rip Torn and Vivica Linford. And Hollywood called, and I got the Sting and The Way We Were. And I remember Redford told me, don't leave New York, stay in New York, because Hollywood won't understand you.
Oh,
And he
a little
was
too
probably
edgy,
right.
perhaps?
What's that?
A little
What?
too edgy, or what did he mean by that?
Well, he personally hated L.A., as you can tell by him living in Park City Utah. And he felt that my theater training, that if I continued to do theater, Hollywood would call for me, but I could keep going back to New York and do theater, which is more of a serious take on acting than the typical LA actor who doesn't do theater, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the thing he didn't know was that I had just gotten on my spiritual path back in '69. We did the Sting in '72. And I came out here really thinking that I was going to, quit acting after the way we were in the Sting, because I had this extraordinary experience with a spiritual master named Swami Satchidananda. If you saw Woodstock, he was the Swami who opened up the film and had everyone Om chanting and everything. And I didn't want to give up my spiritual path at the very time that it had completely changed my life. And as it turned out, that led me to be in L.A. because the Satya Sai Baba Center was here. And at that point, I was into Sai Baba. And I didn't want to go back to New York because my spiritual path at the time was here. I taught yoga for Swami Satchidananda, although he wasn't physically here. His Institute for Integral Yoga Institute was here. So over the years, 30 years, I taught 2,000 people yoga back before anyone was doing it. So in 1969, I was on television teaching Merv Griffin and David Susskind and all these people how to do yoga. And
about when was this?
1969, 70,
Wow.
71, 72. And then in recent years, Oprah had me on in the 90s teaching her how to do it. And then if you follow Oprah, she began to have people all over the world learn how to do it. So I have Uranus on the ascendant, which I'm told is supposed to be endless surprises.
Yes.
So I was
Sounds like
constantly surprising myself as well as the rest of the world. But it's sort of like being your own revolutionary, you know. What will I do now? Well, I'll do something that no one's thought of doing. At any rate, I eventually met a man named John Roger in 1972, and he was the first American spiritual master that I had met.
Is he the
I had
founder?
read Autobiography of a Yogi. You know that book?
Is he the founder?
Autobiography of a Yogi.
I've read that book. Is John Roger the founder of the Peace Awareness Labyrinth in L.A.?
In Gardens, yes, absolutely.
That is
on Adams Boulevard.
Yes, that is a beautiful place. If you've never been in L.A. to the Peace Awareness Labyrinth, it's a beautiful garden and labyrinth and meditation center. It's the Gloucester mansion, the wine merchant, the Gloucester family. And
Gosti, yeah.
Yes. And it's an amazing place. It's like this little patch of serenity right in the middle of the urban sprawl of L.A. So you met John Roger. That's fascinating.
I met him in '72, and he actually opened, it was called Prana back then. And I was there for the opening in 1975. And I lived there for a while, and I was ordained by him in 1976. And part of my ministerial blessing, he said, was courage in the face of public scrutiny, which is something I've been very grateful for over my years and years and years of acting and producing. And,
well, yeah, you're certainly the epitome of that.
Thank you. So John Roger changed my life, and
I want to know, do you mind if I interrupt you for a second? Because I want to go back to when you said you had a spiritual transformation and then, you moved from New York to L.A. What was the trigger there?
I had been pronounced dead in 1966 from an overdose, and I basically...
Oh, geez, I didn't expect that answer. Okay.
I had a nervous breakdown in 1966, and I had done too much LSD, and that led to downers, and one way or another I ended up on a 13th-story ledge of my parents' building, having taken 100 sleeping pills and waiting to fall because I didn't have enough courage to jump sober. So I was waiting for the pill to take effect when somebody looked out the window and saw me, and I didn't have the guts to jump in front of him. He was the superintendent, and he had a large family of kids. And so I snapped out of my psychotic reverie and realized that this person was never going to be the same after watching me jump 13 stories. So he pulled me back in, and I ran down the stairs and out the building and ended up hiding in the bushes of the Guggenheim Museum, and then running down the street trying to get to a place on 87th Street where I knew that I could collapse behind the garbage, what do you call them, cans, in an alley that I knew. But I didn't get there, and ironically I passed out in front of Jackie Kennedy's building, and right about 87th Street. And I remember the last thing I was conscious of was that the doorman paid absolutely no attention to me. And I thought, only in New York can you have, a somewhat pretty woman suddenly pass out on the street, and they just had their arms folded and continued talking like it was the most normal thing. And then all I know is what I'm told after that a ship's doctor and a ship's priest were on their day off, and they were going to the Guggenheim, and they saw me, and the ship's doctor pronounced me dead. My heart had stopped, my lungs had stopped. And the ship's priest said last rites. And then they decided to take me to Harlem to the Metropolitan Hospital in case I could somehow be revived. And I just ended up being very lucky, wasn't I? Because they kept me on machines for a week or whatnot, and told my parents, who eventually found me, that I would be a vegetable, so they should pray that I, would not revive, because if you hear any noise in the background, it's going to be my Alexa, which is broken, and my best friend Cody's going to fix it. So pay no attention. But what happened was that I had a friend, Betty, who was a photographer, and she dreamt that I was dying somewhere, and she called Andre Gregory. I don't know if you saw the movie My Dinner with Andre.
I did not.
And he was my director, and she said, I think that Sally's dying. And he said, well, I heard she had a nervous breakdown. Anyway, she went to every hospital in New York until she found me. She was told she couldn't see me because of my parents. And so she climbed up the fire escape in the middle of the night, got into the floor where I was, and
she
persuaded
did not.
True story, and persuaded the interns to let her in my room, at which point she started screaming at me that I couldn't do this to her and to all my friends. And next thing you know, when I came to, the doctor said, first I saw all the tubes in my throat and my ankles and my arms, and I was upset because I realized I was still alive and I didn't want to be. But then the doctor said, who's Betty? You should thank Betty. And I couldn't talk because of the tracheotomy. So I wrote on a piece of paper, she loves me better than anyone. And there's a little footnote to this, that in the time period where I went out, I had a life after life experience. And it's like everybody says with the tunnel and the light and the sound. But I had an experience with Christ coming to me and saying, you can stay here. Hold 1 second. Okay. You can stay here on the other side, which is what I said I wanted to do because it was so ecstatic, or you can go back and tell your friends about it. And I thought, well, the selfish thing to do would be to stay there.
Especially after Betty screamed at you like that.
Say it again?
Especially after Betty screamed at you like that.
Yeah. So, no one's ever said that the way you just said that. But, for no other reason than Betty, I was back in my body, but I was with a different consciousness. It's like I've had 2 lifetimes, and actually I've had 100
You were
lifetimes.
reborn.
I was reborn, exactly. So I had this consciousness where I understood from my experience in life after life that the people I thought were out to hurt me and cause me pain, that I had had other lifetimes with them. And that in some places, like Rip Torn, who I was in love with, and to cut to the chase, my heart got broken. And I had had a lifetime with him at another time when the roles were reversed, and I had hurt him. And I realized that all the souls in my life who I was being with in one way or another, I had known from before. And that was like a crash course learning in reincarnation. And so
That's
my life
intriguing.
after 66 was very, very different.
How do you stay grounded now with this new level of consciousness? How do you stay grounded and productive with all of this new spiritual information?
Well, I've been with the movement of spiritual inner awareness, which your listeners can find out about going to www.msia.org for 40-something years now. And John Rogers says, no soul is lost. I needed to hear that because I had been brought up with churchianity where my own father, who was an usher for 30 years in an Episcopal church, called my nurse a nigger, which didn't feel to me like Jesus Christ would have. And so I was searching for truth. And for those of you who have read Autobiography of a Yogi, Yogananda was maybe the first person acknowledged by the Western world who brought the Eastern philosophy and the Western philosophy together and talked about the Christ consciousness in his book that was pretty much an entire Hindu upbringing. And he came here to the States, whenever it was, I guess in the early 50s or something, and brought yoga here. But it wasn't just physical exercise. It was the consciousness that out of God comes all things, and that you can be in the Christ consciousness and include Allah and Buddha and Rama and Krishna and everybody. And we're all one in the sense that we have the ability to be in a consciousness of one, and some people don't know it yet, and a lot of people do. I think this is a time in the world where we're coming into the Mother-Father God, in the sense of Mother God and the androgynous consciousness. And that's why we're seeing more and more women coming into power now, and hopefully even more so, given our challenges with the government.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was really very attracted to this path that said Father, Mother, God, or Mother, Father, God. Whenever I'd call on the light, I would say, Father, Mother, God, we ask just now for the light of the Holy Spirit, the light of Jesus the Christ, the mystical traveler consciousness, to surround us, to protect us, to fill us for our highest good and the highest good of all concerned. And we pray to lift any disease, any discomfort, any negativity that we can, and give it to you to be brought back into the nothingness from which it came. We pray for strength and courage and healing on all levels, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And we send this light throughout the world, particularly to children who need to be loved and fed and sheltered, and to all souls reaching out for this love. And we know that we must forgive ourselves for anything and everything and forgive everybody else. And we're in our gratitude, Lord. And we know that you are with us, so be it. So that's one of many different ways that I'll call on the light wherever I find myself on the planet.
That's beautiful, Sally. Now, I'm just curious as to when you went through that incredible, I don't even know what to call it, trauma. You were traumatized, and you do remember, though, people walking by you and not helping you in New York City. Did that have something to do also with you getting up and moving to LA? I'm surprised you remembered that with the state that you were in.
Yeah, I did remember it. I did remember that it was Jackie Kennedy's building. My mother, the fashion editor, was good friends with Jackie. And what was your question?
I'm just wondering if that had anything. Yeah, she put Jackie Kennedy on the cover of her magazine.
How did
right?
you know that? You did your research.
I did a little bit.
Yeah, my mother put Grace Kelly and Jackie O and Audrey Hepburn and made fashion icons out of all these people She and Diana Vreeland and a woman named Eugenia Shepard were what was called the fashion group. And for 30 years, they were together dictating what would be the newest trend. My mother was the first person to bring Italian fashions to this country and was awarded the Medal of Solidarity by the Italian government in the 50s.
And why did you say that you wanted to be more famous than her? What was driving you there?
It felt bad to have people all the time coming to me and wanting to meet my mother, to push me aside so they could get to her. I think if you talk to a lot of people who are the children of famous people, they'll tell you the same thing, that they feel like they have no persona of their own. And I didn't know why she named me the same name. I certainly could have changed my name, but I was belligerent about that. So
I have a feeling that's not the only thing you were belligerent about.
Yeah, no. And it wasn't fame per se, but when I was a little kid, I had a friend, Johnny Newman, with red hair, and he said to me, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And I said, "A saint." And he said, "Well, that's blasphemous. You can't say that." And I said, "Oh, a movie star?" And then they loved that. That was the right answer. So,
well, it sounds like you've achieved both, Sally.
Well, I don't know if I'm a saint, but I definitely encourage everybody your listeners, to go to www.msia.org, which is so inclusive of everybody. It just includes everybody, and that's the path I'm on. I really hate againstness. We believe in cessation of againstness, and I know that we're challenged right now by a lot of negativity on the planet. There's no two ways about it, but it was always predicted at this time that we would be coming into this time of women and the androgynous consciousness, and so we have to go through the battle of the light and the dark and know that the light is and will win,
Well, I love that, and I love your message. And, Judy, we're going to have Sally again, because I know we're just scratching the surface of your story and all that you have to offer. You have
She only got to the late 70s.
I know, right? We're going to have to do...
I do want to say one thing before we finish. If anyone lives in L.A., I have a premiere this Friday night at the Laemmle Music Hall in Beverly Hills on Wilshire and Doheny of a film called Making a Killing, where I star with action star Michael J. White and character actor Mike Starr and character actor Christopher Lloyd and myself. And it's a late start. It's at 9:55, and I'll be there from 9:30 on, as will everybody else, this Friday.
Well, that's amazing. We're going to have to come out to that, those of us who are in L.A. Sally, thank you. And is there a website or somewhere we can learn more about you?
Yeah, sure. SallyKirkland.com. And I do a show with astrologers and musicians every Monday from 10 to 11 at www.healthylife.net, which is worldwide. And as I said, MSIA.org is my path of 40 years now, if you're curious about that.
Amazing. Well, now that we have all of that, Sally, congratulations on the premiere coming up. Thank you for taking the time with us.
Thank you for having me.
It was so awesome. We're going to have you on again for sure.
Definitely.
I would love that.
And, sometimes we have to take these bold leaps of faith, and we also have to realize when we need to make a change or a transition. And Randi Levin is a woman that can help us do all of that. She's a nationally recognized transitional life strategist. She's a Fortune 500 keynote speaker, author, and reinvention expert. She believes that all women should be legends in their own lives, and that legacy is a mindset and a muscle that, when flexed, becomes a powerful tool for change and redirection in living a successful life today. Randi Levin coaching is widely quoted and featured in top media outlets from the Wall Street Journal to Amex Open Forum. She has her own series and column debuting on Thrive Global called Now Is Your New Next. And in 2019, she's going to be collaborating on a transformational retreat in Italy. Welcome to the show, Randi.
Thank you, Kristen. So excited to be with you tonight.
Now, I hear you're making an appearance at Want Women Want New York chapter on Tuesday to speak, right?
Absolutely.
The New York City chapter, yeah.
I am so bummed I'm going to miss this, but we actually have a surprise guest because you are a wonderful woman to let people know about this event. Joan Palzer is on. Joan, can you tell us a little bit more about Randi's event?
Hi, Joan.
I am so honored to be on tonight. Hello, Randi Levin.
Hi, Joan. How are you? Nice surprise. Fabulous.
Well, I am so excited. We have been planning this for months, Randi and I, and Randi is going to be our featured speaker on Tuesday, August 14th for 5.5 ways to reset your success. And that's a little play, and we're going to have to wait and find out what the half is.
Wow.
Well, I think we might hear on the show tonight. I'm not sure. She's going to give us a little preview of it from what I hear. No spoilers, but just a preview.
Not going to give it away, right?
Well, Joan, thank you.
So, Joan, thank you for coming on the show. You know, you're a New York City chapter director, and you are the founder of Joan Pelzer Social Media, or Joan Pelzer Media, I should say, because it's much more than social
Both
media.
of them. Social
And you're our national social media strategist for What Women Want. And, you know, it's just such a great time for women and for all of us. Talk about live, laugh, and learn. Oh, my gosh. The stories that Sally told us and the things that Randi are going to say this evening. So I appreciate you coming on the show. And tell us a little bit more, about what you do and about the chapter. And then we're going to move on to Randi and talk about all these transitions and what we can do to get through them.
Absolutely. I'm so excited. Randi has been involved in What Women Want for a few years now, and it's finally time for us to feature her as a speaker. I just want to read a really cool quote that I'm using as kind of a basis for this event. Success is your ability to manifest legacy in real time today with purpose. Isn't that pretty amazing?
I love it. I love it.
I love it too.
You know, I think sometimes Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Joan.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. You go ahead.
Well, I love the emphasis on the now, and I think Randi can take us into the now in an exciting way. So what an awesome opportunity for the New York chapter.
Absolutely. We're going to do a little Facebook Live on Tuesday. It's one of my specialties that I do with clients because I do social media strategy for clients, including us at What Women Want. So we've been promoting this a lot, and really we want women to feel involved and connected. I was just talking to our new national director, Catherine Marshall, today, and we were talking all about what it actually means to be part of a What Women Want chapter. And what we both said was it's about walking into the room and feeling like you found your people and you feel connected no matter what happens before you got there, and no matter what happens when you leave, you at least have a place where you can open up your business, your life. It's all in sync, and we will talk about both sides, and you can leave with some real tools that you can take with you. And I just love it, and I love doing the social media for it because we get to share that with women who can't get there.
Right.
They can't get to the meeting, or they aren't in the same city and they really want a little taste of it. And so that's what we're going to be doing on Tuesday. I'm so excited.
Well, I'm
excited too. And I just want to add one other thing to what you were just saying about the What Women Want events. It's intelligent conversation. And I think now more than ever, we crave that. We need that as women. And that's what this brings together and brings forward for everyone.
Well,
what a great point.
Yes. Well, Joan, thank you so much for being such an important part of that conversation and all the myriad of ways you do that. And Randi, I want to dive into it with you with a little bit of intelligent conversation now. Thank
you, Kristen.
You're welcome.
And have a great night, ladies. I'm going to keep listening.
Perfect.
And I want to encourage people to follow Joan at Follow Me Friday with Joan and Priya, because she's got a great radio show going on at noon Eastern time on Fridays. So Follow Me Friday with Joan and Priya. Joan, thank you so much.
I have to add in that Judy and What Women Want Networking Conference, which is coming up in October, is a promotional partner for our radio station. So the entire station is promoting you. So we're really excited about that.
And that's
Thank
women,
you so much.
And that's women helping women, truly. So,
absolutely, that's what it's all about.
So,
have a great rest of the show, ladies.
Thank you, Joan. So, Randi, we listened to Sally's story about her being really kind of on the psychological brink, and not all of us have that moment in life, thankfully. But when do you know that you need a reinvention? Like, when did it happen for you?
For me personally, it was midlife. But it is something that I really think happens for most people. Now, whether or not they move forward on it or not is what remains to be seen on that. But we can reinvent ourselves over and over and over again in our lifetimes. Think about how long we live now and the scope of our lives and how savvy we are and connected we are as people. For me, it was a midlife. I was really, I had been in corporate America for many years, for a decade and a half, and when I had my children, I decided I was going to stay home for what I thought was a bit, and one child became 2 children, and one home became 2 homes and a third home, and I was the CEO of...
Oh, it sounds like a miserable life.
Yeah, it was really horrible. It was an amazing, amazing time of my life, but there was this whisper, there was this voice, there was this inner piece of me that kept saying, okay, so what's the piece about me? Like, my kids are about me, yes. And this is very, great that I'm doing this, but what's that legacy? What is that thing that's really mine? And how do I get that? And, I kept suppressing that voice for a lot of years and, kind of thinking I can't do this and that. It had to be one, or the other. And, I got to a big birthday and my kids were older, and I just said, you know what, this legacy thing is just roaring. What does that mean? And, I just stepped into coaching, kind of found me. I knew I wanted my own business. I knew I wanted to support women. I knew I wanted these platforms to speak, to write, to do workshops, to touch people's lives. But honestly, it was really this whole legacy piece and not the traditional definition of legacy. It was
so what's your definition?
Well, my definition is taking legacy, that textbook definition about our heritage and what we leave behind after we're gone, and taking that and bringing it into today, right now.
So it's like a living legacy.
Yes, a living legacy, a legend in your own life. And so when you do that, you have energy around it, and you can make choices and decisions in today. We don't have that ability in yesterday or in tomorrow, but we can drive and curate our legacy today and do those action steps, those half steps, if you would, that help us to move forward toward that dream, those things that we really want. And we can also tweak and turn it so that reinvention can happen over and over when we take hold of that. So it's a power tool, really, to be able to change your life and be very cognizant of the current moment. And there's so much that when we are centered in today that we can bring into our life. It's absolutely amazing.
One of the things that struck me when we were discussing Sally and her life story and her relationship, particularly with her mother, is that she was struggling, I think, partly from what I listened to and heard, for a sense of a truer self or a more authentic self. And authenticity, it's a buzzword these days. It's certainly in acting. It's certainly in pop psychology. And I wanted to know for you, how does authenticity and legacy work together? Do they work together? Are they married somehow?
They are married, and I love that you brought that up because that is one of the tips and strategies that I will be talking about in New York in my workshop, 5.5 Ways to Reset Your Success. I talk about having a meeting with yourself, meeting yourself, really looking in the mirror periodically and really taking in who and what you see back. Is this the same person, same woman that you saw years ago? Is it who you want to be seeing tomorrow? Or are you really seeing yourself in 360? You know, is this who is reflecting back at you? And what does that mean? What is your purpose now? What are your values now? Not what they were, but what they are in the current moment.
Well, speaking of meaning, what's that half? What are you talking about? Half steps? I thought we were supposed to take.
I'm not going to give away the half step, but I do talk about.
I thought we were supposed to take whole steps to success. 5.5 ways to reset success.
But you know what? I have a thought.
The trick is that there is no one right way and no one way that works for everybody. And so sometimes if we bring it down to a smallest common denominator, it's so doable versus figuring out that we have to get to this finish line or we have to get to that end result, and then we stop.
Well,
we stop halfway, don't we?
Okay, I'm about to burst. I think, and I don't know anything about Randi's plan. I looked at her website, but I think there's something to be said for being right on that edge, and where the universe or God or whatever, or the higher power, the source, whatever word you want to call it, comes to meet you. But you have to take that half step that's right on that threshold and edge, and then you are met at that edge, that liminality, to make it whole. That's just me speaking.
Beautifully said. And you're met over and over again in the current day. If you're willing to take that step to meet yourself, to meet
wow.
who you really are.
She says everything beautifully. So I want to know you're not going to tell us what the half step is?
No.
It's a musical. You know what my mother would say? It's a musical term.
Is it 5 steps and then a half, or is it like 5 steps that are broken up into halves? So it's like 10
strategies. It's
Okay.
5 steps that are strategies to success, if you would. Things to think about, things that will help you to grow. And it's that half step that you can take, that you can entwine in and out of all of these, weave that in and out of your life every single day, that will keep you, let's just say, in the moment. I like to say that success is a 3-letter word, and that word is N-O-W. It's now. It's about the moment.
And once you're in now, backwards, it's W-O-N, so you've won.
Yes, it is. And I actually posted something about that recently, because it is a win no matter what. So you have to be in it, and that's true of anything in life. And I think that's really what Sally was saying, too, is that you have to kind of be in it. You have to come back, and she had that comeback, that major comeback from that trauma in her life.
Wasn't that incredible?
Yes, it is incredible.
Talk about transition. I mean, that's the epitome right there.
And she found all of this faith.
She did, and she went with it.
Yes, exactly.
So what happens when you fight it?
I'm sorry?
What happens when you fight it? So she
when you
sounded
fight it,
like...
stop yourself. You stop yourself. But when you fight it, there's one key thing that's coming up, and I call this our thieves. We all have this thief that we need to catch. Do you have any idea what that is?
What is it? Fill me in. Fear. Come on, I'm living, laughing, and learning here. Now I'm learning. Fill me in.
The thief that we all have is fear. And it's fear of a variety of things, but the overlaying fear is fear of the unknown and what that's going to mean for us. And yet every single thing we do from the time we're born is unknown until we know it.
Do you think someone like Sally had no fear? That's why she went with her vision and what was going on at the time that she was going through it?
Possibly. I mean, possibly. It's hard to say. It's hard to say. She also had, drugs that were part of it. So it's really hard to say what was really going on for her in those moments. But I think coming out of it, you learn to, what I like to say, fear less so that you can do more. And I think that she's clearly done that in her life over and over and over again, because she keeps challenging herself to do more and take on bigger things and bigger roles. And, she kept accumulating those successes, if you would, really moving forward on her own growth from that point on. So, yeah.
Do you think that there's a stable core self that is just completely permanent, or is there a stable core self that has to realize authenticity or not? That's something I wrestle with.
Meaning what? I'm trying to
meaning like, is there an eternal self? You know how Sally talked about reincarnation?
Yeah.
And how she had past life baggage from people. Mm-hmm. Do you believe that there's a stable core self that transcends time and space?
I sort of do. I didn't used to, but I do believe that we meet people again in different lives, that there are people actually show up, and I like to say that they're bridges, because I know that I've had people that have represented that for me, a bridge in your life from one thing to another, or one aspect of your life to another. And, what I'm cognizant of with people who are bridges is that they're not necessarily stick around. They're around for a while, and they're really important to you. And they're still heartfelt, but they're not necessarily your soulmate or somebody who's in your life over and over again. It's just a vibe, just a feeling that I have about that. And it's something that really if you asked me that question, even 5-10 years ago, I probably would have said, no, I don't believe in that. But I do now. I'm seeing it a little bit differently.
It's interesting because so much of what Sally was revealing was sort of her wrestling with her own shadow side, her inner demons, her pain, and finding not so constructive ways to deal with that, and then ultimately finding constructive ways to deal with that.
Yes.
When you're sitting down with a client who may have a highly problematic life, their life is flashing a neon sign that says it's complicated. How do you as a coach and a mentor and someone inspiring and leading others, how do you deal with the shadow sides of people?
Well, we all have shadow sides. We all have a darker side. We all have things that have affected us in some way, whether that's a person or a time in our life or something that happened to us. We all have aspects of that at some point in time. The longer you live, the more that statement's probably true. So when I sit down with people, it's very, very question-driven, and we work from a standpoint of today, bringing that back again. It's not that we don't talk about things that have happened, but instead of talking about what's happened to you, we want to really address how your life can happen for you. Mm-hmm. So we want to not erase the dark side. We want to use the dark side, if you would, because that's where your grit is. We can't really have success.
Embrace it. I embrace my dark side.
Right, because
I have a dark side, Kristen.
Without failure. If you haven't had the failure, then there's no barometer. You can't measure it. So, Judy, I don't see you with a dark side. But we all have stuff.
I get, I'm a Gemini, so you can really never figure me out.
I am too.
Oh, my gosh. No wonder this conversation is going like this. Help me.
I'm a double Gemini, I was told. Just recently.
You're a double
completely
Gemini?
off my rocker.
Oh, my gosh.
I never know who I'm waking up to be in the morning.
We've got extremity.
That's the truth sometimes, I have to say. It's true.
We've got astrological extremity because I have what's called a Capricorn stellium. Sounds severe, but I have 5 planets in Capricorn, so I'm like an ultra Capricorn. But that's interesting. I'm glad that we brought up that shadow side because sometimes I don't think we know how to integrate it or how to use it. We just push it away and push it away and push it away.
Right. But it's your grit. It's the thing you want to build upon, not erase. So I'll say, we think about trying to take this big eraser and getting rid of the things that we didn't like or the things that didn't work for us in our lives. But we don't want to do that. We actually want to highlight them. Because that's the traction that you need to grow and to move forward.
And I think that's a mistake that I made, honestly, for so many years before I became successful, was pushing back everything that was going on. Because I've been through... So some of the things I've been through are ridiculous, and the combination of them, of the types of things, traumatic experiences that I've had are actually quite phenomenal. So I was pushing them back. And some of them I was ashamed of, and some of not anymore because I'm just too old to even care anymore. So, but at one point someone did say to me, I think it was Pamela Horton. She was like, why are you hiding that side of you, or why are you hiding that story? And and I was like, nobody wants to hear that. Why would they want to hear it? And as soon as I did start kind of opening up that side of me, and we're talking about stories here and learning, then that was the light bulb where everything started to fall into place. I mean, it took several years, but that was it. And I'm being informed that we have like 2 minutes left, so I want to get in. You have something for our listeners that I want you to mention and let us know about.
I do. First of all, I want people to visit me on my website at randilevincoaching.com, and I have a freebie that is actually one of the worksheets from the workshop 5.5 Ways to Reset Your Success that we'll be doing next Tuesday in New York City. So anybody who's in the New York City area, please jump on my website or on Judy's website for What Women Want New York City to hit the events, and on either one, and you can register for that.
WhatWomenWantNetworking.com. WhatWomenWantNetworking.com to register for the event in New York City, Tuesday, August 14th.
Or it's on my website at randilevincoaching.com.
Randi with an I. I would just want to tell everybody it's Randi with an I.
RandiLevin coaching.com. And the freebie is How to Balance Your Life. It's a 52-week self-guided challenge. It is phenomenal. It will bring balance back into your life every single day. And you can get that very simply at randilevincoaching.com/balance.
Well, we all need that, that's for sure. And Randi, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing with us your wisdom. And I'm sure you're going to knock them dead on Tuesday and really bring down the house. It's going to be fantastic. And I'm sorry that I can't be there. I'm going to be in Atlanta opening yet another chapter. Seems like
but you can watch us on Joan's Facebook Live.
Yeah, exactly. You know what? And I'm planning to. I'm going to do double duty back and forth. So it's going to be fantastic. So thank you so much again. And everyone else, next week, the CEO of Chicken Soup for the Soul is back on What Women Want Talk Radio. That's Amy Newmark, publisher, author, editor-in-chief. She has a new book coming out, The Power of Yes. I can't wait to hear this one. Join us next week for another amazing show. And remember, subscribe to us on YouTube. Don't miss even one show. Go to whatwomenwantradio.com for more, and we'll see you next week. Good night, everyone.
You're listening to What Women Want with Judy Goss and Kristen West, only on LA Talk Radio.